A pregnant woman walked up to our table on our 10th anniversary and said, "He told me you two were divorced." My husband went completely pale, and in that moment, I knew my marriage was over. But let me back up. Let me tell you about the 10 years that led to that moment. Let me tell you about the man I thought I married, the life I thought we built, and the lies that were so elaborate, so carefully constructed, that I never stood a chance of seeing through them. My name is Rachel, and this is the story of how my husband convinced another woman he was divorced while still very much married to me. I met David when I was 20. I was working as a nurse at a hospital downtown, pulling long shifts and trying to build my career. He came into the ER one night with a broken wrist from a basketball game gone wrong. I was his nurse. "So, do you make a habit of injuring yourself to meet pretty nurses?" I asked while wrapping his wrist. He laughed, wincing a little. "Only when they're as beautiful as you." Is it working? It was cheesy, but it was charming. He asked for my number before he left, and I surprised myself by giving it to him. Our first date was at a little bistro near the hospital. David was a sales manager for a pharmaceutical company, which meant he traveled sometimes but had a good salary and benefits. He was ambitious, funny, attentive. He asked about my dreams, my family, what I wanted out of life. "I want stability," I remember telling him. "I grew up with parents who fought constantly. I want a partner, a real partnership, someone I can trust completely." He reached across the table and took my hand. "I want that too. I'm tired of games and drama. I want something real." We dated for 2 years before he proposed. He took me back to that same bistro, got down on one knee, and asked me to spend the rest of my life with him. I said yes, without hesitation. Our wedding was beautiful. Nothing extravagant, but perfect for us. About 100 guests, a garden venue, and a reception that lasted until midnight. David's vows made me cry. He promised to be my partner, my best friend, my rock. He promised honesty, loyalty, and unconditional love. I believed every word. The first few years were exactly what I'd hoped for. We bought a condo downtown, both of us focused on our careers, but making time for each other. Date nights every Friday, weekend trips when we could manage them. We talked about everything, our days, our dreams, our plans for the future. David's job required travel, usually a few days a month, sales conferences, client meetings, territory visits. I didn't love being alone, but I understood. It was part of his job, and he was good at it. He got promoted to regional manager in our 3rd year of marriage. "This means more travel," he'd said apologetically. "Maybe a week or 2 each month. But the salary increase is significant. We can start saving for a house, maybe start thinking about kids. We'll make it work," I told him. "Couples deal with worse. We're strong." He kissed me. I'm so lucky to have you, Rachel. You're so understanding." Looking back now, I can see how perfectly he set everything up. The travel was real, but it gave him the perfect cover for a double life I never imagined existed. Years 4 through 9 were good, really good, or so I thought. We bought a house in the suburbs. I got promoted to nurse manager. David continued climbing the corporate ladder. We took anniversary trips every year. Hawaii, Italy, Mexico, Costa Rica. We had photos from every trip, smiling and happy. We talked about starting a family, but the timing never seemed quite right. "Let's wait until my travel slows down," David would say. "I want to be present for our kids, not always on the road in Maji sense." I was patient. We had time. His travel did increase over the years. Sometimes he'd be gone for a week, occasionally 2. He'd call every night, tell me about his day, about the boring conference or the difficult client. He'd text me photos of his hotel room, the conference center, the airport. I never suspected anything. Why would I? He was attentive when he was home. He remembered our anniversary every year. He brought me flowers randomly. He told me he loved me every single day. But there were small things I explained away at the time. He got a second phone for work. "Company policy," he said. "They want work and personal separate." He started showering immediately when he got home from trips. "Airport germs," he explained. He was vague about his schedule. Sometimes it's still being finalized. He'd say when I asked about specific dates, I trusted him. That was my mistake. I trusted him completely. Our 10th anniversary was approaching, and I wanted it to be special. 10 years felt like a milestone worth celebrating properly. Let's go back to Amor. I suggested one night. Amor was the upscale Italian restaurant where we'd had our first date, where he'd proposed. It was expensive, fancy, romantic. We can recreate our first date. Come full circle. David seemed hesitant. That's pretty public, babe. You know how I feel about fancy restaurants? It's our 10th anniversary. Come on. It'll be romantic. Please. He finally agreed, though he didn't seem excited about it. I made reservations for a Friday night, the same day of the week as our wedding. I bought a new dress, got my hair done, planned the whole evening. I even bought him a gift, a vintage watch he'd been eyeing for months. I was so excited to celebrate our decade together, to look back on everything we'd built. I had no idea I was walking into an ambush. The night started perfectly. I wore a deep red dress that David always loved. He looked handsome in a dark suit. We drove to the restaurant together, and he seemed quiet, maybe a bit tense, but I attributed it to work stress. Omer was as beautiful as I remembered. Candlelit tables, soft music, the smell of fresh bread and wine. We were seated at a corner table, intimate and private. To 10 years, I said, raising my champagne glass. David's hand shook slightly as he raised his. To 10 years, he echoed, but something in his voice was off. Are you okay? I asked. You seem nervous. Just thinking about how lucky I am, he said, but he wouldn't quite meet my eyes. We ordered appetizers. I was telling him about a funny incident at the hospital when I saw his face change. He went pale, his eyes fixed on something behind me. David, what's wrong? He didn't answer. He was staring at someone, and he looked terrified. I turned around to see what he was looking at. A woman was walking toward our table. She was pregnant, very pregnant, maybe 7 or 8 months. She was pretty, probably in her late 20s, with long blonde hair and a determined look on her face. She walked right up to our table and stopped, looking directly at David. David, she said, and her voice was shaking. What is this? I looked at my husband, confused. Do you know her? He opened his mouth, but no words came out. The woman turned to me, and I saw tears in her eyes. Who are you? I'm Rachel, David's wife. The words felt strange coming out of my mouth, like I was defending my own marriage to a stranger. Who are you? She looked like I'd slapped her. His wife, but he showed me ... double quotes, Jen. Please. David finally found his voice. Not here. This isn't not here. Her voice rose, and nearby tables started looking at us. You told me you were divorced. You showed me the papers. You proposed to me. David, I'm pregnant with your baby. The restaurant seemed to freeze. I could feel everyone staring at us, but all I could focus on was the words that had just come out of her mouth. Divorced, proposed, pregnant, baby. What is she talking about? I asked David, but I already knew. Somewhere deep down, I already knew. Maybe we should take this outside, David said, trying to stand up. Sit down, I said, my voice cold and calm in a way that surprised me. She's pregnant and clearly upset. We're not going anywhere. I looked at the woman Jen, he'd called her. Sit down, tell me everything. She hesitated, then pulled out a chair and sat. Her hands were shaking. She was crying. I met David 2 years ago, she began, and each word was like a knife. At a sales conference in Chicago, he told me he was divorced, that it had been finalized 6 months earlier. He said his ex-wife lived in California, and they'd decided to part amicably. I felt nauseous. 2 years. He'd been with her for 2 years. He showed me papers, she continued. Divorce documents with signatures and everything. He showed me photos of himself at his bachelor pad apartment. He talked about how lonely he'd been, how much he wanted to find someone special and start over. That's not David Stardy, but I held up my hand. Let her finish. Jen wiped her tears. We started dating long distance at first. He said he was based in Boston for work, but traveled a lot. We'd see each other during his trips, talk every day. He was so attentive, so loving. After 6 months, he said he was falling in love with me. I stared at David. He couldn't look at either of us. About a year ago, he proposed, Jen continued. He said he wanted to do it right this time, that he'd learned from his failed marriage. We started planning a wedding, and then 3 months ago, I found out I was pregnant. Congratulations, I said bitterly. You're having a baby with my husband, my married husband, who is very much not divorced. She started crying harder. I didn't know. I swear to God, I didn't know. He showed me papers. He talked about his ex. He showed me an apartment. He introduced me to people as his fiancée. What made you come here tonight? I asked. I found a receipt in his jacket pocket, she said, for a reservation at this restaurant for 2 people under the name David and Rachel Mitchell. I Googled the name and found your Facebook profile. Your profile picture is of you and David on your anniversary last year. You're tagged as married to him. She looked at David with such betrayal in her eyes. I confronted him about it this morning. He said it was a business dinner with a client named Rachel, but I didn't believe him, so I came here to see for myself. And here we are, I said, at my 10th wedding anniversary dinner, sitting with my husband's pregnant fiancée who thinks he's divorced. I'm so sorry, Jen whispered. I had no idea. I would never. I know, I said, and I meant it. She was a victim too, in a way. He lied to both of us. We both turned to David, who looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Anything you want to say? I asked him. David's mouth opened and closed a few times before words finally came out. Rachel, I can explain what exactly? That you've been living a double life for 2 years. That you proposed to another woman while married to me. That you faked divorce papers. That you're about to have a baby with someone who thinks you're single. It wasn't supposed to happen like this, he said weakly. How was it supposed to happen? David, walk me through your plan here. He didn't answer. Were you planning to actually divorce me eventually? I pressed. Or were you just going to keep lying to both of us forever? I love you both, he said, and I actually laughed. You don't love either of us. You love yourself. You love having 2 women, 2 lives, 2 chances to play the hero. Jen was staring at him like she'd never seen him before. You showed me divorce papers. How did you even fake those? I have a friend who works in graphic design, he admitted quietly. So you went to the effort of having fake legal documents created. I said, that's dedication to lying. That's not a mistake or a moment of weakness. That's calculated deception. Rachel, please. What about the apartment? Jen asked. You showed me photos. You said it was your place in Boston. It was a corporate apartment, David said, for work trips. And the people you introduced me to, Jen continued, her voice rising again, your friends from work. Were they all in on this? They thought we were dating, David said. They didn't know about Rachel. How convenient, I said. You compartmentalized your entire life. Did you ever slip up? Almost call her by my name. Mix up which lies you told to which woman. He didn't answer. When were you going to tell her about the baby? I asked. Or were you planning to ghost her when she gave birth? I didn't know what to do, David said. And he actually sounded distressed, like he was the victim here. I didn't plan for any of this to happen. I met Jen and I felt something, but I still loved you. I couldn't choose. I didn't want to lose either of you. So you decided to lie to both of us instead, I said. Very brave. I can't believe this, Jen said, standing up. She looked at me. I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I never would have. I know, I said again. It's not your fault. She looked at David with disgust. I need the truth right now. Are you married? Yes, he whispered. Have you ever filed for divorce? No. Did you mean any of it? Any of what you said to me? He didn't answer, which was an answer in itself. Jen pulled off her engagement ring. I noticed it was similar to mine, probably from the same jeweler, and threw it at him. It bounced off his chest and landed in his pasta. I hope it was worth it, she said to him. Then she looked at me. I really am sorry. If you need anything for the divorce proceedings, I'll testify. I have texts, photos, everything. Thank you, I said quietly. She walked out of the restaurant, leaving David and me sitting there with everyone still staring at us. I stood up, grabbed my purse, and pulled out the gift box with the watch I'd bought him. Happy anniversary, I said, placing it on the table. I got you the watch you wanted, but I think I'll be returning it tomorrow. Rachel, please, we need to talk about this. No, we really don't. We're done talking. After 10 years of marriage, I thought I knew you, but I don't know you at all. And I don't want to. Where are you going? Away from you. I'm going to my sister's. Don't come home tonight. Actually, don't come home at all. I'll have my lawyer contact you. You're not even going to try to work through this. I stared at him. Work through what exactly? The 2 years of cheating. The fake divorce papers. The second fiancé. The baby on the way. Which part should we work through? David, he had no answer. You know what the worst part is? I said, it's not even the cheating. It's the elaborate lying. You didn't just have an affair. You created an entire false identity. You convinced another woman you were divorced. You proposed to her while married to me. You faked legal documents. That's not a mistake. That's not a moment of weakness. That's sociopathic. Don't say that you're having a baby with her, David. A baby, that's permanent. That's forever. Even if you wanted to fix our marriage, which you clearly don't, that baby will always be there as a reminder of what you did. I grabbed my coat and walked toward the door. Our server tried to stop me to ask about the bill, but I just pointed at David. He's got it. Charge whatever you want. Add a huge tip. You all deserve it for the show. I walked out into the cool night air and finally let myself break down. I sat on a bench outside the restaurant and cried big, ugly, gasping sobs. My marriage was over 10 years. Gone. And in the most humiliating way possible, in front of a restaurant full of people on what was supposed to be our celebration night. I went to my sister's house that night. She was shocked, horrified, and immediately opened a bottle of wine. Tell me everything, she said. I did a whole story from the pregnant woman appearing to the fake divorce papers to the baby on the way. He's been living a completely separate life, I said, for 2 years. How did I not know? How did I not see it? Because he's a liar, my sister said. A really, really good liar. This isn't on you, Rachel. You trusted your husband. That's not a character flaw. Over the next few days, I did what I should have done years ago. I investigated. I went through our financial records. I found payments to the corporate apartment he'd claimed was for work, but they went back 3 years, not to... How long had he been planning this? I found credit card charges at jewelry stores, one for my engagement ring, one for June's, charges at romantic restaurants I'd never been to, hotel rooms in cities where he'd supposedly been staying with clients. I contacted a lawyer, and she was fascinated by the case. Fake divorce papers are serious, she said. That could be fraud. And the fact that he proposed to another woman while married, that's not just infidelity. That's potentially criminal, depending on how far it went. I reached out to Jen through Facebook. We met for coffee a week after the restaurant incident. She brought a folder full of evidence, text messages, photos, the fake divorce papers David had shown her. I want you to have all of this, she said. Use it however you need to. How are you doing? I asked. She put her hand on her pregnant belly. I'm scared. I'm having a baby with a man I don't even know. A man who's married. A man who lied about everything. Are you going to keep the baby? Yes, she said without hesitation. I'm far along, and despite everything, I want this child. But I don't want David involved. I don't want him anywhere near us. I don't blame you. We talked for over an hour. It was strange, bonding with your husband's mistress, but we were both victims of the same man's lies. Did he ever mention wanting kids with you? Jen asked. We talked about it. I said, but he always said the timing wasn't right. That he traveled too much, that we should wait. He told me he wanted a big family, Jen said. That his ex-wife didn't want kids, and that was part of why they divorced. I laughed bitterly. I was literally waiting for him to be ready. He was the one putting it off, because he was busy building a second life, Jen said. We sat in silence for a moment. I keep thinking about how many lies he must have told, Jen said. Every time he said I love you to me, he'd probably just said it to you. Every time he talked about our future, he was going home to you. How do you do that? How do you compartmentalize like that? I don't know, I said. I've been asking myself the same thing. The divorce proceedings started immediately. David tried to fight it at first, claimed he wanted to work things out, that he'd made mistakes, but still loved me. Save it for someone who believes you, I told him through my lawyer. He wanted to keep the house. He wanted to split assets 50-50ths. He wanted to act like this was an amicable divorce where we'd just grown apart. My lawyer had other ideas. We have evidence of infidelity, she said in our first meeting. We have evidence of fraud with the fake divorce papers. We have a pregnant mistress willing to testify. We have documentation of him proposing to another woman while married. We're going for fault-based divorce, and we're going to take him to the cleaners. David's lawyer tried to negotiate. Perhaps we can come to an agreement without airing all of this in court, he suggested. No, I said. I want everything public. I want everyone to know what he did. And so it went to court. Jen testified 8 months pregnant about how David had deceived her. She showed the fake divorce papers. She showed texts where he'd proposed. She showed photos he'd sent her of his apartment and talked about the wedding they'd been planning. It was devastating testimony. The judge looked at David with open disgust. My testimony was just as damning. I showed our joint tax returns, proving we'd filed as married every year. I showed photos from our anniversaries, including one from just months before he proposed to Jen. I showed our joint bank accounts, the house deed with both our names. David's lawyer tried to minimize it. My client made mistakes, but your client committed fraud, the judge interrupted. He created fake legal documents to deceive another woman into believing she was in a legitimate relationship with a divorced man. That's not a mistake. That's a crime. In the end, I got the house, the car, and 70% of our assets David got his retirement account and the debt from credit cards he'd used to finance his double life. This court finds that Mr. Mitchell engaged in deliberate, calculated deception that caused significant emotional and financial harm, the judge said in her ruling. The division of assets reflects both the infidelity and the fraudulent behavior. Jen had a baby a month after our divorce was finalized. A girl? She didn't tell David when she went into labor. She would put father unknown on the birth certificate. David tried to assert his parental rights, but Jen fought him. He created a false identity to deceive me into a relationship, her lawyer argued. He has no right to this child. He's still tied up in courts. I don't know how it'll turn out. As for me, it's been 8 months since that anniversary dinner. I'm still processing everything, still going to therapy to work through the trust issues and trauma. I sold the house. Too many memories. I moved into a condo downtown, closer to the hospital. I threw myself into work, got another promotion, started rebuilding my life. Dating seems impossible. How do you trust again after something like that? How do you believe someone when they say they love you, when the last person who said it was lying the entire time? I ran into David once, 3 months ago, at a grocery store. He looked terrible, tired, defeated. He tried to talk to me. Rachel, I'm so sorry. I know I destroyed everything, but I want you to know I did love you. I do love you. I looked at him, this stranger who used to be my husband. You don't know what love is, David. Love doesn't involve creating an entirely false identity. Love doesn't involve proposing to someone else while you're married. Love doesn't involve faking legal documents. I made mistakes. Stop calling them mistakes. Mistakes are accidental. What you did was intentional, calculated, and cruel. To both Abus, I think about you every day. He said, "Don't," I replied. "Move on with your life. Figure out whatever is broken inside you that made you think any of this was okay. Maybe go to therapy, but leave me alone." I walked away and haven't seen him since. The thing that haunts me most isn't the cheating itself. It's the realization that I never really knew him. 10 years of marriage, and he was a complete stranger. How much of our relationship was real? How much was performance? Did he ever really love me? Or was I just convenient? Someone to come home to between trips where he lived his other life? I'll never know. And maybe that's okay. Maybe I don't need to know. What I do know is that I survived. That humiliating night in the restaurant felt like it would kill me, but it didn't. The divorce proceedings felt endless, but they ended. The pain felt permanent, but it's fading. I'm learning to trust again. Slowly, I went on a date last month. Nothing serious. Just coffee with a guy I met through friends. I told him about my ex, about the betrayal. He listened without judgment. "That says nothing about you," he said. "That says everything about him. You're not damaged goods. You're someone who loved honestly and got hurt by someone who didn't deserve it." Maybe he's right. Maybe someday I'll believe it. I'm rebuilding. New home, new routines, new dreams. Dreams that are just mine, not dependent on someone else's honesty. Sometimes I wonder what happened to Jen and the baby. I hope they're okay. I hope she found peace. We both deserved better than David Mitchell. And you know what? We're both going to be fine. Better than fine. We're going to be happy, eventually, without him. Because here's what I learned. Betrayal doesn't define you. How you respond to it does. And I chose to survive, to rebuild, to move forward. David lost 2 women who loved him. We lost a man who never really existed in the first place. I'd say we came out ahead. If a stranger told you your partner was lying about being divorced and had proposed to them while still married to you, how would you react? Would you believe them immediately or think they were crazy? And how would you handle finding out in such a public, humiliating way? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments.